Well, thank you so much. It is so great to always have a spot in the worship summit. I think this is one of the most important things we can do is to bring the church together and talk about not only technology, but what I really want to talk about today, which is the vision behind what we're doing. If you really think about this older show we may know called Star Trek, great big command center, lots of knobs and buttons, lots of new equipment, could boldly go where no man has gone before. The only difficulty there is if we only focus on the knobs and buttons and all the shiny objects that are really cool, but there's no direction to where we're going. You don't get to go to boldly go where they haven't been before. And so I want to introduce myself. My name is Jeff Fitzgerald. Jeff in high def is what my friends, colleagues, and clients know me by. I've been in video production since 1982. I was, yes, not even born yet. Actually, I was 17 years old, and my mother was a TV producer, so I was blessed to have the opportunity to see what TV broadcast production looked like firsthand. And then lo and behold, in the early 90s, here comes the World Wide Web, and I got into that full time for 11 years, even went as far as writing flash video players and building streaming media for some of the people I work for online training and things along those lines. So I feel like I've got a pretty good balance between understanding what the TV world looked like and also what our world on the online world looks like. And what I want to talk to you about today is understanding that I think there's a bridge there that we should focus on. Really, how do we get our material not to look like TV in terms of the technical, because the technical alone is not reaching the world, but really the rhythm and pace and the content part of what TV can bring into your church in terms of thinking of it like a TV producer. And so, I want to start with just saying, don't settle for the bland Sunday morning church stream. I know that's extremely difficult to say that because some of you are locked in with leadership that's what they see it as. It's an adjunct to the main service, the main event, and it's really just letting the people who are housebound in and see what the world looks like. But I really want to encourage you to begin seeing your ministry team, your streaming media team, as a ministry all its own, if you don't already. I know some churches have an incredible focus on their media teams, and then even beyond that, the streaming media, which, believe it or not, has different content or can have different content from what we see in the typical material that usually gets posted. Just the pro presenter graphics and scenes from worship and things like that. And so what do I mean by that? There's an opportunity in these moments on Sunday morning that we could take full advantage of being able to reach people with the incredible message of God's grace and love and truth. And that would even involve things like using your pre-roll time wisely and using that as an advertisement to bring people closer to knowing what your church is all about, hearing testimonies from other people. It may be something where you're going on the streets and you're doing questions from the streets of life, and we're hearing about hearing real world questions from people who may want to know an answer to something. Obviously, all of this is pre-produced. It's well known. None of it's a surprise. It doesn't go out over the stream without any kind of vetting or anything like that. But that pre-roll time can be really valuable while that countdown clock is going on to really set up what your church is all about, who you are. And the bigger thing is, why is your church in your community? And I would even say you need to ask that of yourselves and of your own leadership is, why are we here? It's not enough to say we're a church and we're reaching the world with Christ, because that's our motivator to get out and begin building these places in our community. But what are we doing specifically to reach people? And so for me, I would just encourage you to think about, begin looking at your streams in terms of if you were a producer, not a camera operator, not a button pusher, those kind of things. And in the sense of being able to take that message and how do you divide it into a way or present it differently in a way? Maybe it's more visual, maybe it's with pre-recorded content, or maybe you're doing something live on Sunday morning where before you go to the Sunday service and the worship as it gets started. Maybe you've got two of your younger members on microphones down on the floor, so to speak, and they're, you got a little card in their hand, a microphone in the other, and they're welcoming you to this Sunday morning. This is going to be an incredible Sunday morning. It's the first day of the week, and we are excited that you're here with us at our church. And today you're going to hear Pastor Mike talk about these 5 things, and we really believe that if you really give him a listen, that it'll change your life. And by the way, and you turn to the other person, how have things been going in your life? And this guy could say, I've had some highs and lows this week. The crazy world we're all experiencing right now is weighing on a lot of us. But at the same time, it's good to be here, and it really helps me refocus. And we want to invite you to stay for the whole live stream. And maybe there's an opening like that in some of your material where people really feel drawn in. One of the things that I notice a lot of times, unless somebody like me right now talking into the camera nonstop, one way, it gets to be pretty monotonous, and it's just a drone and can actually tune people out. One of the things I like when you're working with somebody else, maybe you're having that conversation, is to talk to them and look at them, and at the same time look back over here, maybe use your hand gestures and things and say, hey, you're part of this conversation too, even if they're really not speaking in it. And building the nonverbal communication that it takes to make the material you're producing all that more engaging to somebody. Because I don't know if you all remember the first time you went into a church. For a lot of people, it's pretty daunting. I mean, some of these churches are very big. It can seem very distant. You almost, am I really supposed to be here? What do these people believe? A lot of that. And so I think it's important to understand that the people that we're trying to interface with and engage really maybe they might be timid about this, right? And so that's why you'll see sometimes your viewer numbers there, but you won't get any engagement. Obviously, the other thing is to assign somebody on your team, if you have them, maybe somebody who's a social media centric person in your church, to be available on Sunday mornings and help those chats and keep that message flowing, where there's somebody in there to just not say, hey, would you like prayer? That's a wonderful question to ask somebody, but if you really think about it, a lot of times people don't feel connected first. And so all I'm about today is how do we get more connected to the people we're trying to reach? Because I know many churches, and I know in a lot of the work I do, a lot of people count success as we set it up, we hit stream, the stream went out, good luck with it, we're happy we did it. But that's not necessarily communicating. Communication is actually not just the transmission. It's the reception on the other part by the people that you're trying to connect with, and that they actually absorbed enough of it that it's making a change in them somehow, whether they want to be part of it or want more information, or you've opened up a way of thinking that now they're really considering God could really be real. And so I would just say, even if you've got a ragtag bunch of people as your, a small 2-member team, 3-member team, I would just like to say that if you're an overseer, build into the people that God has put in your path, because Jesus did the same thing for his disciples. And I say his disciples intentionally because they were his to oversee. So if you're a leader, a producer, leader in your church over the streaming media, think of these people as not just your project or anything like that, but build into them to create the team that you want. Because many times the Lord brings people in our life that we're like, there's no way this is going to work with this person. And you find out later that it was exactly the thing you needed to see the entire thing rise up in a way that it never had before. And so, again, I would just like to say that if, the church sees your extension, sees you as an extension of everything it's doing, I would also encourage you to go before your pastor and the people that matter in terms of decision making in the church, and really begin to sell them on my favorite word in the dictionary, and that is the word vision. We know that the Bible says that where there is no vision, people perish. And it's one of these things where we don't think about it in terms of our efforts. We think, oh, we've done it, the mechanics were there. But are we really having an effect on people with all the work and the effort that we're really doing? And so I would just encourage you to have that conversation and begin to help them see that this is a ministry all its own. It's not even part of the media ministry in some ways, because the content, like I said, can be different than just the everyday interior church production. Streaming has a lot of elements to it. And so, to that end, it's important to remind everyone too that churches should understand that we are in a really new and serious moment in our country. You obviously know this. There's no way to avoid that. Our world is on fire. People are hurting. And that has fundamentally changed our outreach and what we need to be doing. And part of that is if we are presenting content that seems like it's happy-go-lucky for us, but yet the people around us, especially in communities that are bleeding, it can seem disjointed and irrelevant or not connecting in a way where people feel like that you're actually authentic and real to them. So pay attention to the kind of messages you're putting out beyond the Sunday sermon, and figure out what that looks like for your community. But I have to say this too, and I said this the last time I did this, that the church is on the cusp of the biggest awakening it's ever had in ages. Because of the fact there's been so much pain and chaos in our world, the more that we are able to portray the truth in authentic ways of people that are not shaken, that were not stirred, that were not moved by these things, because we know whose we are and where we are, and that we're called to do something greater. That strength is amazing to people who don't have it. And so there's just a massive potential for a new revival throughout the world. And I actually believe that it's going to be through streaming that a lot of that happens, because most people won't stick their head in a door these days with the narratives we're seeing in news. I've been around news for almost 40 years. And I can tell you, I could take the same media of 1 minute of an interview, and I could make you think pretty much anything that I would want you to think with the material, because it's by what I use or don't use, I can change that narrative very easily. So we have an opportunity to reach the world in a fresh new way. And I would also just like to say that, think about the content outside the sanctuary too. It may be doing some different things on Wednesday night when you're doing maybe the prayer study. Maybe it's something that has nothing to do with a timed part of your service, but it's material you've produced, and you set up a Facebook Live event, and we gather around and we listen to Jill's story. Jill had a child that had some difficulties with their health, but they're managing through it. And some of these stories may not even be where they have a happy ending that's known, right? We can always say, God got us through this and God got us through that. But the truth of life is, the Bible says that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. And telling a story where someone's in the middle of it, but how they're dealing with it, how they're staying strong, how that faith is working in them, could really be the difference between them giving up when that open door could be just a few more moments away. And so I think these are, pretty interesting times that we're in. And I think these moments could speak to these kind of things. And, I would just say that, that I also think our world is crying out for unity. What better organization, organization is not even the right word, but what better group than the Church of Jesus Christ that should be showing unity? I love the fact that we're seeing more and more churches embrace the awkward, even to them, by partnering with other churches to have conversations about race. We know that the world has its own ideas on how we handle all of these things, but we as kingdom people know that God is greater than black or white or anything in between. And that's a moment where you can have honest conversations where people are not preaching, they're not proselytizing or evangelizing, but there may be a gentleman who's white, there may be a gentleman who's black, it may be multiple people of mixed race and color, and they're on a microphone and they're listening to each other and they're saying, this has been my experience, and I want you to understand, this is how it's made me feel, but yet I know that God has been in the middle of this too in these things. And so I think there's a tremendous opportunity for us to do amazing things well beyond the Sunday service. And so as you go into today, into the wonderful training that you're going to get today, I just want to encourage you to be thinking like a producer, to be thinking with vision, because vision opens the door to life. And that we speak life over these things, right? But we can't have the Star Trek Enterprise and not know where we're going. And so that's my my admonition to you. Again, my name's Jeff Fitzgerald, Jeff in High Def. Would love to connect with you. If you're interested in that, please look me up. And with that, I will turn it over back to you, and definitely look forward to a great day along with you as well.